Good afternoon. Welcome to OptionsTender. It's Tuesday, somewhat turnaround Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. So we're going to go through the game plan. First, a top-down analysis, and then our game plan for PPI and CPI. I said that in the opposite order of where they're coming. We have in the market, let's see, I think I have it up here. Yeah, all right. So tomorrow morning before the bell, CPI 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Also, jobless claims and PPI 8:30 a.m. before the bell on Thursday. So, is this going to be the traditional, very common, I should say, not traditional, up on one of them and down on the other? A lot of times they have an opposite effect. So if we go down on CPI, for example, PPI will bring the market up. And I think the opposite's going to happen this time. I think CPI, we're going to get a pop. And then with PPI, we're going to have a drop. Remember, I said we have a cycle coming in here on Friday. Very specifically Friday, but this could play out a couple different ways. And I want to show you how this plays out and the timing of it. That's going to be the key here for what we're looking for. Okay, so let's, we're doing this intraday, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you're interested in getting these videos intraday, consider becoming a 99-cent a month YouTube member. You get the Discord, trade alerts. It is fantastic. All right, can't beat that deal. Let's go. SPX, monthly time frame. Just want to show this to show you where we came from. 2000, 1929, 2000, 2025. We're getting our reversal off here. Let's go over to SPY. On SPY, we have our 2008, 2021, 2025 rejection. We're breaking out of this consolidation area. I do suspect that we do back test this area. Now, the lower end of the zone is approximately, and let's look at these numbers, approximately, let's say about 580. I know it's a little under that. All the way up to mid-range, which is about 590. Okay, so 580 to 590. I know that's a big range there, but let's keep that in mind as we look at our analysis from the top down. So at this point, we're breaking down from the momentum indicator, the 8 EMA, and we're just trying to come back to home base here. And that's our trend indicator, the 20 moving average on the monthly time frame. And notice how it kind of coincides here with the consolidation area here. So I do think this is the next area where we get down to when we have our dead cat bounce. All right, so we should get into this area. We should have, as we form our impulse wave down, the end of that zone should be around this area, around the 20 moving average on the monthly time frame. That seems visually where this is going. Okay, so, and that's all the way down to lower levels as far as, let's just say 500 at this point. On the weekly, on this weekly time frame, we have this bearish rising wedge. We broke down from it, and like I said, this candle is in a bounce zone here, and I think this is going to carve out a low, and we're going to have a doji candle on this weekly time frame. If not, then something really, really bad is happening, and I don't think that's the case yet. I think we're going to get our bounce first, and that bounce, again, 580 is the bottom of the zone that we're calling it. Maybe all the way up to these resistances in 590. And you notice that our 20-week, and I'm just highlighting it. If you look to the right, you see that golden box around 593. That's where the 20-week moving average is. And so I do think in the next couple weeks, that might be at 590 at that point. But I think we might go up to test that zone. Do we get all the way up to here, the 600 and that resistance? I don't know. It's possible. It wouldn't surprise me that this would just be a V shape before heading down. But, just be careful. Everything's going to be sold into these bounces. And at this point, if you're a bull, you're simply looking for a 1-2 setup. And we'll look at that closer on the lower ranges here. And so you notice we have some support down here in the next levels, 525. We break this. Lo and behold, you have that 500 range right there, and that was a support zone. So we'll look at that as we get a little bit closer. Let's change boards here. Let's go to this weekly, and you notice we're right on top of the bottom of that zone here of Fibonacci retracements. Now, if you're, again, this is a 23%, so I'm taking the lows of this move here. You could use either one depending on how you're counting this. And this would be highly acceptable if we're looking for a higher degree wave 4. And so that's what a lot of people are looking at. Is this an ABC expanded flat pattern? And then we go to new all-time highs. Okay, so if this starts to break down, and I'll show you, then we have another Fibonacci coming in this area. But we're going to pay close attention to the middle of April all the way to the beginning of May. Wherever price is at that time, if it's higher, if it's lower, we're going to be looking for a turn and some sort of setup on the longer time frame. Okay, and then we have that 100 moving average that's coming into this zone here at about 515, 522. So we'll see where that comes down to. That might be our wave 3, where that comes into a bounce, and wave 5 into that zone that I was talking about around 500. Let's go to the daily. Daily trend is our friend. We have that bearish rising wedge. We broke down from it. We're trying to see if this pattern is going to hold, which the pattern I think is kind of done. We're working through it. I do think that we get back above it, but it doesn't really matter at this point. It's not really, to me, it's not really a setup to go any higher at this point. I think it's going to fail eventually. And again, we're at the bottom of the range here. You stretch this out a little bit more. We're at the bottom of this range that I have pointed out. And at this point, I do actually think we get a little bit lower, and I'll show you why. Okay, so let's go over to another board here. By the way, we're looking for a bounce. We have positive divergence here, positive divergence. We're looking for a oversold bounce. Change boards. All right, let's look at this one first. So we have our Fibonacci's. Again, we're looking for the 13th or the 14th to be a low. We're not there yet. Just keep stretching down here, and I have to keep lining these up. I think we're going to get a wave 1 low as of today, and then tomorrow I think we're going to start to rise just for a pop and then a drop. So that's what we're getting at with CPI and PPI. All right, so we're starting to form our story here, and then we into next week we start to get our move, our dead cat bounce, oversold bounce into, here we go. So you have, remember I said 580. So about, if we get in the closer time frames here, 583 is a 50% retracement, and 590 is that 62% retracement. Do we get above that? I don't know. I won't be playing that far higher, but maybe leave some runners or so. But we'll start to get back into our short positions into this 50-60 zone. And that's when the 50, the 20 moving averages will all be into this zone at that time. When this occurs. And then at that point, we might even have some time and price coming into the bounce going into the end of the month here. So we'll check that out and see where we are when price gets there. So let's change over to another board here. And we can get a good look at that's a bearish rising wedge. I think this count is done. I think we're looking for wave 1 to complete here. And again, we're at some prior resistances go down to 550. So we're going to keep an eye on that 550 for this near term low. And then not today, but possibly by Thursday or Friday, seeing that low. And we're at this breakdown candle high right now at 555. So I like this zone where we're at. I think it's going to hold going into tomorrow with the CPI. I think CPI is going to allow us to pop, and then PPI is going to allow us to drop. And that's just forming the correction, the beginning of our market structure for the correction. Okay, and I'll show you that on, again, those lower time frames. And we have all of these fibs here coming up on this next. So we're looking for the bounce into wave 2, and then we're looking for wave 3 to be a lot bigger. Okay, and we'll be able to measure that as we get wave 2 in there. We'll use our extensions and such, some tools that we have. So let's go to the 65. On that 65, here's the lower range that we're talking about getting the bounce. Forever now we've been talking about this range. And now I think this range is going to hold. I know there's volatility. I know it's spiking through, and you know what's happening to your range. Well, here is how I'm looking at it. So we do have, let's use this bar here. We do have some minor support. It's the middle of this next range. Okay, I think that might be where price decides in a Friday to jump into. So keep this line here with a grain of salt. We're trading around it. We're trading in and out of it. I don't think that's going to hold anything anymore. What I'm looking for is this low to be breached into our support here. And then after that, rip your face off rally. So again, we have this downtrend line here. Possibly, a lot of people look for this to be a breakout. Maybe we can get price action into these levels here. And that would be the mid-range of where the week started. And I think that's a very good, I think that's a high probable trade if you want to trade this here. But I think it'll be sold into. And I don't know if we make it to the trend line or not. We might. Let's see what happens. I might put on a lotto trade in a few minutes here. That looks like something to pop into. Now, timing-wise, okay, our cycle is larger in the timing-wise than this. But the reason, and I went over this with individual members, the reason that I'm really keying in on Friday, because it overlaps with our weekly low range. And, it doesn't mean you can't have a day outside of that range, but it really puts us at Friday. So our cycles really look good for Friday. I don't want to go short, at least very small positions into this bounce. It's all about timing. And so I don't want to play around too much of this. If this is very volatile and a pop and drop right away into Thursday and Friday, that's when I want to go long, because this is a very, very going to be a very tradable bounce. And I don't have the timing really on this bounce right here. We'll go through that later. But again, we have that 590. I have that arrow really, really high there. We have 590, and there's zones above it and below it. Where's that? 585, and closing the gap there. That's that 50% retracement. So, we're probably going to get a reaction off of that. But we also have FOMC coming next week on Wednesday, and I think that's going to accelerate things. So maybe, maybe this goes into the drop goes into Monday, into Tuesday, turnaround Tuesday. I don't know that. I'm just guessing that we have some overlapping cycles, and this is a very quick move up and down. That's so volatile. And with the VIX being elevated to where it is, this is a very possible scenario. But if maybe this takes forever to break out and go into Friday, and we finally get a drop on the Friday and follow through on Monday. So I'm not trying to time this. I'm not trading this like that. I do think we have our low in right now just for tomorrow, and we get a pop. But it happens so often where CPI and PPI do the opposite. But I want to play this 5-wave rip your face off rally into the zones, and if we change boards here, we can get a better look at what these zones are. Have they been adjusted? Yep. Okay, got everything adjusted. So here's our levels again. So what I'm looking for is the wave 1 to be done here. Okay, that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move, where this last move here, you can't see that candle because of the timing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you see, this was so confusing. You had a nice move in the beginning, a nice steady impulse move. Then you had a running flat. That's confusing in itself. But then after that, you have a wave 3. So wave 3 can't be the shortest. And with this being a running flat, it's longer than wave 1. And then wave 5 ended up being the longest wave, stretching out, continuing, and just being very choppy. And then the last move there was just a harsh move where it didn't bounce really at all. So we're forming a bottom here. I think we get that pop. And that first wave for wave A, I think that's really high. I don't think that's going to make it up there. We might close this gap, get to 382. And then I'm looking for the 62% retracement of the entire move up, of the last wave up. Okay, so I'm looking for wave B to go into the lows in our timing, and that this is the 14th here. Again, that's super sharp, right? So this would be Friday low here if that's the case. And whether that's Friday, let me get this 3 out of here. I don't need that. Whether it's Friday or Monday or Tuesday, whenever we get our actual low, then we're looking for a 5-wave move up. And again, this is going to be so oversold that it's not unheard of that this would make it all the way back up to 600. But here's our 590 target here. So let's call it target 1 at 583, target 2 at 590, and a big question mark, target 3 at 600. So those fibs will not change if we make a new low here. It's called expanded flat pattern. All right, it's not uncommon to have these, and I can show you an example. But let's put on, this is an indicator that I use every day on one of my screens. Let's use the Elliott oscillator. Let's put that on there. So this gave us the bounce that we had here. And then we did have a divergence here, and this is where we went long. Clearly, that was incorrect. Price moved down. We lost some money. Okay, that it burned through, but it's at extreme levels. We're looking for a bounce, and what I think is going to happen, and I'll leave this on here, and we'll go through this once it happens. I think the B wave that makes a new low is going to make a divergent low on this oscillator. And I'm going to leave this here so you can see that when we check back here, tomorrow, next day, whenever the low comes in there. Okay. And that, again, we're looking for this to go pretty big on our position size for that C wave. But this really, got us, but now we have new information. We brush it off, and this is setting up beautifully at this point. All right, let me show you. Let's go back to the daily, and then we'll go through the major indices on the daily time frame. And I just want to show you when expanded flats. We have an example here. Oh, I think it was on the Qs that you made a new low. Not that one. Well, I'm not going to waste all your time looking for them, so I'll take a quick glance. And I think it was on the 55 or 65 minute that we had the expanded flat there. That's what it was. There's an expanded flat right here. I don't know if you could see that. Boom. Boom, boom, boom. All right, made a new low. Boom. That's a 3-wave move, correction. Anyway, QQQ. Oh, Lulu. All right, on the Qs, again, that, this formation is it holding. It's just been wicking kind of through there. We're looking for some support. Don't have a whole lot going on here. We do have some. We're at it right now. We have support that held on to here for our continuation move. We had a gap area, so we had support here. Our gap shows that was an important area. And that doesn't do a whole lot, but we had some resistance. And again, a gap above that important area. So that it's showing that that's important. It's not pretty, but and then our next move is down here. I don't know if I don't think an expanded flat would make it that low. I don't even know if we're going to get an expanded flat in both indices, but we're looking for that in SPY. So I'm not going to speculate on if the Qs are going to or not. They could make a higher low. I think that Tesla lows are in. I think that NVIDIA lows are in. SMH, I think these lows are in. I don't think SMH is going to make, because of NVIDIA, is going to make. Our timing is past for that already. And I think this is going to make a higher low when we do have that bounce. And I'll be looking for strength in SMH and NVIDIA. For sure. And I know you can go long on Tesla at that point also, but I think our strongest move here for a bounce relative strength will be NVIDIA along with SMH. So any of those players that you want to look into there. IWM. IWM is in this bounce zone. We saw the bounce, the reaction off of the higher point. Well, it didn't hold there, but it made back to the lower point. And so now we kind of bent our channel down here. It's a little bit more steep because we had this, we had these highs here, lower highs. So I line them up with that, and it just kind of looks really good with these lows here. So that might help us out in the future on what might happen here. So I do think this is forming a 5-wave move. And so our steep bounce that happens in SPY and QQQ, I think this is going to be more of a shallow wave 4. Could be a triangle, it could be whatever it needs to be. And then I think it'll head lower at that point. And with prices, with that channel going lower, I think that we'll probably reach the bottom of the channel again in some fashion, form or fashion, to make a low. And this one will probably be relatively stronger on the upside at some point. But if price does bounce higher than the, we'll put a 23 and a 40% retracement. If it gets higher than those, then that invalidates the wave 4 for me. And then I will call this a 1-2, 1-2. Okay. DIA clearly has lower prices to head to, and is rejecting off of the 200 moving average, and also that that kind of I guess it's not a real strong trend line, but I thought it might have made an equilibrium in here, but it's just going lower. I'll get this out of here. it might actually backtest it and reject lower, but I think prices are going to head lower. And again, I just use these here, and it lines up with these here. And so I do think we see prices go lower to at least test the bottom of the channel here anyway, because this is forming this market structure. The channel might even break eventually, but I think we'll get a reaction off of it. And I think this it's starting to play out. These structures are starting to expand and starting to play out there. Okay. Let's go to the VIX. And the VIX is at a good resistance range here. And you see, just like this play back here and all of these, it's testing. Boom. So right here, SPY was forming a low. SPX was forming a low. Okay. And you see how many times 1, 2, 3, 4 spikes into it. We only have 2. So not unusual for forming a low like that. I think that lows are typically made in events. There is a saying about that, where tops are processes and lows are events. But in this case, it's not a huge major low. So we're just playing around here looking for some news to reverse again. And I think we're going to get our reversal here. So at first, what's this going to look like? We'll probably look at the VIX coming back to test the 8 EMA and also about this 25 area where there's a breakout zone. Okay. And after we get a bounce here, which will probably make new lows in SPY and lower highs in the VIX. So again, we'll mark this just so we can look back at it. I think we're going to make a lower high, but we'll probably come back to test the 8 EMA and we'll probably test the 28 zone again, but with a lower high. Okay, so that will be a divergence in itself. And then after that, we're going to get a VIX crush. So don't, and I can't give you advice on how to trade. That's not what this is all about. But just be careful with any options that you're going way out of the money, because the VIX is going to crush. The VIX is going to crush, and it's going to suck premium out of the money calls when we go long. Okay. That's all I want to say about that. I think this is good enough. This is our game plan coming into CPI and pop and possibly a PPI drop. Okay, I don't know about that timing, but we're looking to go long.